how important is it for a plumber to study other people's work in order to become a good plumber? How important is it for a doctor to watch another doctor in order to be good at doing surgery themselves? Book learning is great, and there are lots of ways to educate yourself beyond watching films. We're going to speak directly to filmmaking. But I do think there comes a point where watching other craftsmen's approach to telling stories is not only helpful, but it is important. Now, with that setup, I'll also say that we can be careful because we're not just wrapping tape on a pipe, right? And it's not, doing surgery is a little more complex, but this is storytelling. It's creative. You're influencing minds and hearts with the things that you share, and will be influenced by the other work that other people create. So I'm not saying you have to go watch the greatest director or directors of photography, whoever the artisans are that everyone else is watching. That's not always necessary to watch the classics. But you should watch things that are well made. But be careful, guard your hearts and minds. There's also other places, if you want, you can watch them with filtering. You can just be cautious with what you watch. You can be wise in those decisions as well. You don't have to let garbage in. And don't ever get lost in the thought that just because you're watching it doesn't necessarily mean you're actively learning. A lot of times it's rewatching or behind the scenes, which filmmakers love to own DVDs and watch behind the scenes and say it's for education. There's more nuance and breakdown and watching it without sound and listening to just the sound, and someone who will take a scene and dissect that apart and do diagrams and study the editing and then study all the wardrobe and write all those things down. That's studying. And I know very few filmmakers who are lauding their DVD collection who have taken any film and done that type of exercise to that degree with any scene. So just because it's on the shelf doesn't make you a great filmmaker either. Just because you have a wrench, just because you have a stethoscope doesn't make you great at your craft either, right? We have to study, we have to learn, we have to be practicing ourselves. And those can be great inspirations. They can be great resources to draw from, to go and practice and try to emulate and learn how. So yes, I would say it's important. It's not the only way to learn. Mm-hmm. There are enough great films out there that you don't have to watch things that offend your conscience under the label of learning and education. There's plenty of options out there of great things that you can watch instead.
I feel like having life experience and like just real life can actually be just as much or even probably more beneficial. Like literally, I remember in one book I read from the screenwriter was talking about just literally go and sit somewhere and listen to people's conversations. Not be creepy, obviously, but like how just like pay attention. Like when you talk to the cashier, what do they say? What's their mannerisms? What's, like, because then you can learn like next time you need to like write a scene where the guy goes up and like has an interaction with the waiter or the the teller at the thing. What is like of the 20 or 30 interactions you've paid attention to, how did they act? How did they do this? What are the things they said? How did they respond to you saying this, or whatever it might be? And then just be super observant of like listening and like watching how life around you actually happens in the real world. And then you can kind of use that information. So obviously, yeah, it's awesome. I feel like growing up, I didn't watch a ton of like actual like Hollywood movies, which I'm grateful that we didn't have like the bad effects of like being so inundated with that. But I know I had a very small idea of what filmmaking could even look like. So at some level, watching some of the good stuff with filters, whatever it might be, helps you kind of expand your horizon of what's possible. Because basically, if you're copying the people who've been copying other people, then you'll never be able to, if that's kind of the scope of what you know of film to be, then ultimately your copy of that's going to be even worse. So kind of going to the source of like, really good work then can help you see kind of like set the tone or the big picture of what's possible.